Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you're at, ladies and gents. I am Kura Isagami, your resident tinker and Medarotter, and this is the Medarot News Network, bringing you all the latest developments and happenings with our favorite pet fighting robot series. Today, we actually were given some very big pieces of news with a newcomer that'll take us all the way back to the early days of Medarot 4 and the Four Heavenly Kings. And with that reason, I have named today's episode The Rise of the Kings. So let's go ahead and get started and break down what they showcased with us this week. As you see here, we have a brand new model that's been showcased in the game, and that is everyone's fan favorite, the Berserker type Tyrel Beetle, with a kit of Desperate, Double Beam Sword, and the leg ability of Fortress. Now, overall, Tyrel doesn't bring anything new in particular to the table. We've seen Desperate before with Barris Italio, the collaboration bot with the Omega Sisters. Beam Sword is nothing new in particular either, but it's just how Tyrel Beetle goes about using that kit that completely changes up the game. Especially with the leg ability Fortress, which reduces incoming damage by a certain percentage. At 5-star, that means you're getting a 30% damage reduction for every incoming hit that Tyrel Beetle takes, and with clock in easily over 35, almost 3600 HP per part, that means he can take a blow and keep on ticking. Even better, he is also capable of meta change, where he completely exchanges his melee kit for a shooting one, exchanges those skills with laser, break, and napalm, changes his leg type to wheel, and his leg ability to adapter, which changes all terrain matches to A rank. Now, this is where using Tyrel Beetle may get just a little bit tricky in terms of metal compatibility, because across his robot mode and his change mode, he's got 4 different skills that you have to cover, which is melee, shooting, support, and then biped and wheeled legs. However, depending on which way and regardless of which way you're going to use him, he's absolutely going to be incredibly dependable as a primary damage dealer on the team. Overall, with his stats, both arms are clocking easily almost 600 to 1700 base power, which alone is honestly fantastic. And reminder that Beam Sword does get a ×3 damage modifier at 100% at 100% Metaforce, which means that when he's attacking on the line, he is going to absolutely rip and tear anyone that's in his way. And then to add Desperate on top of that, he might take a little recoil, but honestly, for the extra damage he's going to be dealing out, I really don't think he's going to need it too badly. His legs are just a little bit slow compared to most other bipeds we've seen so far, with an average mobility of about 640, so not too terrible, honestly, but at the same time, it could be just a little bit better. But with that leg ability of Fortress, I honestly could find it very easily forgivable. In his change mode, honestly clocking some incredible base power. It's at almost 2,000 damage with that laser on Drive A. On Drive B with Break, clocking 1620 with Pierce damage, which will also get bonus damage if attacking someone with heavy parts equipped, so very, very nice there. Napalm is probably going to be the weakest of his 3 attacks, since it'll scatter the damage at 1730, about 1750 roughly, scattering it between the 3 parts of the scattered AoE. And so wheeled leg, 893, honestly, I'd say is kind of lower tier compared to most other wheeled types, but still isn't too terrible. But the leg ability adapter will definitely forgive that and compensate for any lost speed that Tyrel Beetle might be missing on the field. Overall, definitely recommend picking him up for any melee-based teams that you may feel are in need of a nuker. Or even if you don't plan to use him in melee mode, and you plan to use him in change mode as a shoot nuker, he's someone who can absolutely fill both roles very, very easily. So highly recommend spending rubies on him if you have the chance to make that pull. He definitely will not disappoint. Now, continuing our drive and our journey into this event that's coming in with Medarot 4 is a rerun of Arc Beetle D, his twin, with the kit of laser, rifle, Gatling, biped legs, and the ability of B-loader, which buffs his evade stat relative to his Metaforce charge. Now, this is the second time that Arc Beetle D has made a comeback. Overall, can't really complain too much with this kit. Very, very easy and conventional kit to make use of. No real drawbacks because they are conventional rifle, Gatling, and laser. The B-loader ability Definitely will compensate for his lower leg speed with the ability to buff his evade, which makes it more likely for him to graze or outright dodge attacks when attacking. However, when he's capable of meta change is where he trades in his viability and versatility for raw nuking power, with a meta change kit of Drive A Hyper Beam, Drive B Power Rifle, and Drive C Mega Gatling. Now, let's stop right here a second and see, where have we seen this particular kit before? If you answer the original Arc Beetle, you would be correct. This is where Arc Beetle D definitely changes the game, and he can convert from a conventional auxiliary fighter to your primary nuker in one turn. On top of that, he also has the leg ability Adapter, much like Tyrel Beetle, which means that he'll be getting an A rank on every single terrain on the field that is anything under S, which means he's going to be absolutely booking it to and from the line, with the addition that his leg type will change from biped to flying, which means he's already getting some massive speed buffs alone just with the change. Add the Adapter ability on top of that, he is absolutely going to be zooming back and forth across the field. Like Tyrel Beetle, highly recommend picking him up if you feel the need for either a conventional shoot fighter or even a shoot nuker, one of the two. You definitely will not be sorry sinking the rubies in for Arc D or Tyrel Beetle. Both of them have fantastic kits overall. Highly recommend for sure. And I did mention before that we are getting a new event starting this week that takes us all the way back to the days of Medarot 4. Challenge Gokuen of the 4 Heavenly Kings to earn him, Chi Behemoth, and the King Medal as limited rewards for this event, in addition to Cyplasium, rubies, and other highly sought after materials that you may feel that you might need to top off on. With this, they're going to be highlighting, of course, Arc Beetle D and Tyrel Beetle as the best highlighted bonus percentages. This event also will be point-based, unlike this current event with the Omega Sisters that is ticket-based. The difference between the two of them is that percentage base, you have to stack bonus parts of highlighted sets to get higher bonuses. So if you were to use full set Tyrel Beetle, for instance, that's a full 60% bonus to your final point earnings at the end of a level when farming through this current event. Whereas if you only use one piece of Tyrel Beetle, that's only 15%. So this event in particular is definitely going to encourage pure set farming more than anything else. You can always use mixed sets from other parts if you need, but pure sets is definitely where you're going to get the highest percentage bonuses when farming for this event. Medarotters are the same way, using a highlighted Medarotter, either Gokuen himself, Hakuma from the previous 4 Heavenly Kings event that introduced Arc Beetle D, of course everyone's favorite Ikki Tenryo, and of course the newcomers Arase and Hisaki from Medarot S themselves will give you a bonus with the Medarotters, 2 extra points. With this, they're also highlighting Chi Behemoth, not just Chi Behemoth as the event reward, but also Kusantaris, who we had as a previous event reward too with Hakuma. So if you perhaps snagged him in the previous event, this will be a great chance to start raising him so you can get some extra points. And with that, as mentioned, Chi Behemoth is the event reward bot for this event, and he is sporting a kit of Stack Clan's Double Break, Tank Legs, and the ability Heavy Arms. Now, he's not particularly bringing anything new to the table that we haven't seen already, but he is packing a lot of really nice armor. Stat Clans is always happily welcomed for any meta team that needs to keep ailments off their tail. The leg ability Heavy Arms is probably relatively forgivable to Chi Behemoth's low mobility of 433, because for every heavy part that he has equipped, the performance and all leg stats go up for every heavy part equipped. So even though his stats don't look too promising overall at base, that's not factoring in the equipment of 3 heavy parts while using the legs or as a pure set. So overall, I wouldn't necessarily say that he's groundbreaking or meta capable, but Stat Clans, like I mentioned, is always happily welcomed. Break is also really nice for punish against people that are using a lot of heavy parts. So definitely recommend picking him up. Of course, as the event award, it's not going to be too hard to do that. In terms of raising, that one honestly I would leave up to your discretion. Like I said, nothing new to the table we haven't seen yet, but his legs definitely do make triple heavy kit like his pretty forgivable to make use of. This week for Fierce Battles, not anything overall brand new or special this week, just some kind of misc battles, which really shouldn't be too bad since they're going to try to focus on you farming the event more than Fierce Battles this week. But the first one on the line is RBT-05F, for female, Tempt Bunny, with a kit of Beam, Shoot Trap, Count Repair, Wheeled Legs, and the ability of Charm, which reduces damage by a certain percentage if the attacker is of the opposite gender. Now, Tempt Bunny, I wouldn't necessarily say is anything super great or super powerful, especially with a mixed kit like hers between a shooting skill, a setup skill, and a healing skill, and then add Wheeled Legs on top of that one. Overall, the leg ability is pretty solid, especially if you're needing it for a female nuker. Especially in a game where male bots seem to be more of the predominant choice and pick. Definitely make use of that, especially with the Wheeled Legs. You get some good mobility with that. Shoot Trap and Count Repair, I wouldn't necessarily say you're too great or super buff this time around. Beam, not too bad. Overall, in terms of farming capability, I'd probably rate her about a 3 or a 4 out of 10. So I wouldn't necessarily say anything great. Definitely farm her for the leg ability and the legs, though, if anything. Overall, not too bad. Like I said, this week, it seems that they're going to be trying to emphasize farming the event more than Fierce Battles this week. Next up on the line for Fierce Battles is an old favorite that everyone who played the older games would know, and that is Prune Jelly, with a kit of triple missile, tank legs, and the ability of Fortress, which, much like it was mentioned with Tyrel Beetle, reduces incoming damage by a certain percentage upon being attacked. Now, I've mentioned this last week, of course, with Rhino Rush. Missiles definitely have a place. I would recommend picking them up just for the sake of having Prune Jelly's kit in the case that you somehow would need the parts. Overall, though, not super viable. Doesn't really bring a lot to the table that makes him worth farming for. I'd probably rate him about a 1 or 2 out of 10 in terms of overall viability, both as mixed parts and as a pure set. The leg ability Fortress honestly is really nice, though, so in the case that you are on a modifier that requires tank legs, I'd recommend farming for it just for the sake of having him raised, but otherwise, nothing really new or nothing really that's really worth the time or the energy consumption towards farming. And the last Fierce Battle for this week is the Sapphire-type Blue Corundum with a kit of Optic Guard, Press, Beam, Sea Legs, and the ability of Brilliance. Now, with the mixed kit in particular, like Blue Corundum, she doesn't look like too much at first glance, but upon closer inspection, she actually does bring a couple interesting skills to the table that are definitely going to be worth the investment in farming for whenever you're not doing the event. Optic Guard in particular, I wouldn't necessarily waste too much time on. It just basically means that it'll nullify any incoming optic attacks, which are Laser, Beam, Beam Sword, and Hyper Beam. So, not too bad really, but the problem with that is that she also will tank any incoming blow outside of those. So, more or less kind of like with Rhino Rush, where with a basic guard head that basically just tanks the blows. Blue Corundum's head essentially will do the same thing, but if it's an optic attack, it will be negated. Press and Beam, nothing overly impressive with them, but also pretty nice to have to hold on to just in case. Her leg ability is where she really shines, though, pun intended, as it restores a little HP to all parts when charging Metaforce. This is the same leg ability that Hardness 10 has, which what makes her super great to use both as a pure set and mixed parts. Same case with Blue Corundum. While her kit itself might not be super great, the legs alone already make her worth the farming for. Even just to have a decent set of sea legs on hand with a nice ability like Brilliance. In terms of viability, I'd probably rate her about a 4 or 5, maybe a 6 at best, depending on how badly you're in need of good sea legs. And I would probably also call her the MVP of the week if you happen to decide to farm Fierce Battles over the event this week. So definitely recommend picking her up if you're missing out, or picking up some extra duplicates to raise if you need to limit break. MVP of the week right here would go to Blue Corundum. Rest of the news from Project Rising Beetle, we are looking for translators. Last week, Ruben and I did make a mention that we were in the process of working on translating Medarot 3 and the Reloaded manga, but we are in need of translators. So if you have any knowledge in Japanese, cleaning as in for like manga pages or coding, and have plenty of time on your hands, we have plenty of openings, and we are hugely appreciative of any help. Come be a part of the translation team that helped bring the Medarot to the Western community with its manga and game translation projects that also brought with us Medarot 1 and Medarot R. So if you have some time on your hands and some skills that you don't mind putting to the test and unrusting, we are more than open to any help or assistance you might receive. You're welcome to reach out to me, and I can get you in touch with the right people that can get you started and bring you up to speed on what to do. Other than that, the only other major piece of news we got this week for Medarot S related is we will be receiving Story Mode Arc 4 Chapter 2 this week. So another opportunity to pick up some extra rubies if you feel yourself running low, on top of seeing more story about Ibuki and her new Oni type, Sara Stashi Hime. So looking forward to seeing more information on those two come up as the story progresses. Other than that, I believe that covers everything for this week. So not a whole lot really that was covered, but lots of really exciting news to prep a really exciting week as we kind of wrap up the collaboration with the Omega Sisters. If you want to know more or learn more information, you can follow us below at the Medarot News Network page or the Metabots Forever community on Facebook. You can also join our Discord community at Project Rising Beetle with the link provided. If you want to reach out to me with any questions or any suggestions you might have for me, you can reach out to me on Twitter at Isagamikura. I am more than open to any feedback or suggestions you might offer. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have as well. And just to kind of wrap up this collaboration strong, do give the Omega Sisters a follow as well at Omesis Ray and Omesis Rio on Twitter. You can also follow them on YouTube at the Omega Sisters. Like I mentioned with Ruben last week, very chaotic pair for sure, but if that's the kind of vibe that you're looking for, you definitely won't be disappointed with their content. Other than that, thanks for stopping by again, folks. It's always happy to have you in for a visit. Until next time, this is your host, Kura Isagami of the Medarot News Network, signing out.